Hello friends and welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're making cheddar biscuits. So if you can't tell, I recently had a virus and my voice is really bad, but we're going to do this video anyway. In a large mixing bowl, you're going to go ahead and add 2 cups of flour. And to that you're going to add 2 tablespoons of baking powder. To that you're going to add 3/4 teaspoon of salt. And then a 1/2 teaspoon of sugar. Then we're going to mix this up to get all the dry stuff mixed through before we add anything else too. And now we are going to add 2 tablespoons of shortening. And to this 1 stick of butter cut up in smaller pieces so that way it's easier to incorporate into the mix. So go ahead and use your fork and break this up as you are mixing it through your flour. At this time you probably want to preheat your oven. We're going to go at least 425 degrees unless your oven bakes on the low side, and you might want to turn it up a little bit more than that. These are going to bake for at least 25 minutes or so. You do need to watch them to make sure they brown on top. And when they get brown, you know they're done. You don't want to pull them out too early from baking because you don't want them to look kind of like they have no color at all. So you want to go for kind of a beigeish color across the top. So go ahead and keep going with the fork and mix through all the ingredients that you have in the bowl. We want to try to break up the shortening and the butter and mix everything else through before we add buttermilk, because we want to make sure everything is incorporated. And we're trying to get the pieces of butter down smaller in size. They're not going to be tiny by the time you're done, but they will be smaller than when you cut them up and put them in. The ideal thing is to try to get them down to they look like a grain of rice, but it doesn't always happen, and it doesn't have to be that small. So once you get it all chopped up, then we are going to add 1 cup of buttermilk. Now, if you are a little on the dry side when you mix this up, maybe there was a little more flour than you thought or whatever, you can add more buttermilk. The whole idea is to keep this kind of moist but not wet. So stir it through, mix up everything, scrape the bottom of your bowl and the sides to get this all mixed through. And this might take a moment to get everything pulled together, but as you do get it pulled together, it's going to become like a big lumpy ball and it's easier to deal with. You don't want to see flour or anything stuck in corners of the bottom of your bowl. You want to pull that into the mixture. And as you can see with mine, it is sticking together and it is pulling in. Now, when you get it done to that point, you're going to add a cup of cheddar cheese. The degree of cheddar, or whether it's like a mild or a sharp or whatever, is your choice. Put the cup in, and then you're going to mix this into your dough and make sure that you get it distributed throughout all the corners so that way all of the original dough has cheese throughout it. So keep stirring it up until you feel you mixed it through. Now when you're preparing this to go to the oven, you're going to need a pan, which I always line mine with aluminum foil and spray it so that way it's just easier to work with and easier to clean up. And then you set that aside and then get a cutting board or whatever, and then we're going to pull out, you know, about a cup or so of this mixture at a time, you know, maybe not even a cup, and we're going to put it down on a floured surface. Mine was a cutting board, and I'm going to fold it over just a couple of times, not a lot, just a couple, and then I'm going to use a cutter to actually make my biscuits. And I usually try to do this about 1 at a time. I don't try to deal with all of the dough at once because sometimes it gets to be a chore to move it around and deal with it, and it's just easier space-wise to do this. And then when I have a little left over after I've cut 1 biscuit, I'll add some more dough to it and keep mixing it through to keep the dough fresh. That way it doesn't dry out from being with the flour. And then fold it over a few times until it feels like it's incorporated, and then it's time to cut again. And you're going to do this until you get all of yours used up. You can easily, if you're making smaller biscuits, do 10 to 12 of these. Now, I did pretty large biscuits and I did thick ones. So I probably had about 9 or so of these by the time I was done. And, well, it was 9. And they're all lined up and ready to go into the oven, which it should have been preheated to at least 425 or higher. And like I said, after 25 minutes, it looks a lot like this. And you're going to take some melted butter and brush the top, because this way it's going to give it a nice top to it. You don't have any excess flour on it. It's just going to taste better this way. And just keep working it around until you've coated every one of the biscuits. Now, if you have extra butter left over, you can go back and add it on top of the other ones. Again, I always do that just to make sure everything's incorporated. So if you liked this video, and I hope you did, maybe you'd like to check out my cookbook, which is in stores now. It's available on Amazon and other stores worldwide. So if you'd like to, please take a look, and I hope you enjoy it. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time.